Howdy everyone. Welcome to the next video in the 2026 Primary Election Analysis Series. Every U.S. state has different rules, procedures, and voting days for their primary election. The goal of this series is to help educate my fellow Americans on the information who would otherwise be too busy working, supporting a family, or for any other reason, and don't learn that information. Some Americans are concerned that elections won't even happen. Others have given up believing elections are important, that nothing will change regardless who they vote for. Allow me to address these claims as best I can. The first is a serious claim. Trump's authoritarianism should keep us all on alert during the primary elections and the general in November. Trump's enablers can try to gaslight us. They will continue to lie to us, tell us his fascist remarks about canceling elections are a joke. But believe your lying eyes and your lying ears, the evidence proves otherwise. For decades now, many Republican states have cooperated together to disenfranchise voters in various new Jim Crow tactics. One program, commonly referred to as crosscheck or interstate crosscheck, has removed thousands of Americans from voter rolls, canceling out their voice in their elections. Check out investigative journalist Greg Palast's work to learn more on that subject. Trump has shown no problem to violate our Constitution and the rule of law. He has been a criminal, a con artist, a child rapist his whole fucking life. Now that he's the president again, why would he stop now? His administration is already taking actions. Just recently, his FBI seized 2020 voting records in Fulton County, Georgia. Pam Bondi has threatened Minneapolis in a mob-like way of reducing ICE presence in exchange for their state's voter information. Trump and his fascists want this information to make the midterm results more favorable to MAGA's congressional candidates. They know they can't win with the upcoming elections based on merit. The more voter rolls they control, the more voters they can attempt to remove. The best way to counter this is by getting more Americans to vote than ever before. Make the election's results unriggable. Make them too big to rig. Then there is the second claim, those who suggest voting isn't important. If voting wasn't important, then those in power wouldn't be taking every action possible to keep you from voting, to keep you in constant poverty so you are too tired to organize for better political outcomes. For those suggesting that voting is hopeless and that it can't change the system, if everyone adopts that attitude and accepts defeat before even trying, then yeah, the robber baron capitalists, the imperialists, the fascists, they will continue to murder and destroy everything with no pushback, no chance at all to stop them. For now, we still have elections. We can still organize and replace every corrupt, spineless member of Congress with someone better. How much better? Depends on who is available in the primary and if we can give them enough support to win. Of course, winning the primary doesn't guarantee winning the general election. But if no candidate tries, then those seats are an automatic loss. The candidates who are willing to fight for the American people, in clear terms, will be the ones with the best chance of winning in November. As it is now, the majority of our current Congress continues to prove each and every goddamn day they are spineless and unable to meet this moment. Trump continues to act as if our Constitution is null and void, that the rule of law does not apply to him or those he chooses. Here's my message to Trump and his MAGA cult members. This is only temporary. Our Constitution and the rule of law, yeah, it's currently on hiatus, but that will change. This dark period in American history will end. But that only will happen if a majority of us Americans who are not in Trump's cult stand up, organize, and make it end. We must continue the protests out on the streets, continue pressuring Congress members to at least put up some goddamn resistance to this fascist administration. Abolish ICE is the minimal position, not a strongly worded letter recommending reforms. We need to organize to elect the best primary candidates who are running in 2026, support them so that they can win in the general election. As deadlines close in each state for candidates to file and get on their primary ballot, I have been reviewing the platforms for all candidates in every seat. In each episode of this series, We discuss a brief analysis of each state in the US as it regards to the 2026 primary elections. We will discuss how many seats they have available, how their primary process operates, and since the United States does not have a federal level framework for elections, it is up to the states to determine how those elections are run. By the United States not having a uniform election process for federal elections, it is a contributing factor that leads to confusion in these elections and why some voters don't even participate as a result. After discussing their framework, we then move on to the candidates running in those elections. Doing this research has confirmed an unfortunate fact. Sometimes there isn't always a great candidate running in every district. But for the seats where there is one, that is where I am dedicating my time to help. I don't have money or large amounts of free time, but for the candidates I can come across who I believe deserve a spotlight, this is the least I can do for them. The requirements to be a secular lefty approved candidate are the following. They don't have to support everything, but the more the better. I have it broken down into two groups here. Priorities once elected and taken office in 2027. These include impeaching Trump and all others in government guilty of their various high crimes, abolishing ICE, and supporting indictments, trials for every Gestapo bastard terrorizing our communities. Putting an end to all support of nations committing genocides. These must be the priorities of our next Congress. Once all criminals are removed from our government, we need congressional leaders ready to fight for policies to address our healthcare and affordability crises that have been plaguing our people for decades. These candidates should have a campaign website with this information to make it easy for voters to know where they stand on these important issues. Additionally, all secular lefty approved candidates must refuse super PAC money, corporate money, or money from APAC or any other big money lobby. These candidates must be unbought. This is the only way we will know that they serve us, the American people, not their donors. Voting blue, no matter who, doesn't work if we replace corrupt politicians with other corrupt politicians collecting money from the same donors. With all that stated, let's move on and discuss the Mississippi primary elections and their secular lefty approved candidates, if they had any. Mississippi is a state with a population just shy of 3 million people, a heavily Republican-controlled state. Their governor is Republican Tate Reeves. 3 of their 4 House seats and both Senate seats are currently held by Republicans. While some Democrats look at the 2nd District as a victory, unfortunately, the Representative Benny Thompson, yes, a Democrat, but like the other Mississippi Congress members, he doesn't work for the people of Mississippi. They work for APAC and the other wealthy donors in the oligarchy, the health insurance lobbies, the weapon manufacturers. That's why they need to be replaced. Before talking more about these corrupt members of Congress and the candidates that will hopefully replace them, let's first discuss how their primary election works. In Mississippi, the information provided here from Ballotpedia tells us that the primaries are open. What this means is that all registered voters in the state of Mississippi may choose to vote in any party's primary. What this means is that all registered voters in the state of Mississippi can choose to vote in any party's primary. In closed primaries, that isn't the case, where you can only vote in the primary of the party that you are registered with. Closed primaries are another method in which voter participation is decreased to help the parties increase their control over the candidate selection process. A way to improve our voting system is to require all states to have open primaries, preferably with some form of ranked choice voting. But for now, we have to work with the systems as they are. The other point of interest is that Mississippi requires their primary candidates to win a majority of votes, meaning over 50% of the vote. If no candidate achieves this, the top 2 vote-earning candidates move on to a runoff election prior to the general election. If you are an eligible voter in Mississippi, this next bit of information is very important. This is from the National Conference of State Legislatures. If you are not registered to vote, you have 30 days before the election to register. The election is on March 10th, so be sure to be registered well before the February 9th deadline. So just to review here, the Mississippi primary is on March 10th. They have an open majority-style primary And if no candidate in any race wins a majority of 50% or more of the votes, then the top two vote getters move on to a runoff election, which is scheduled for April 7th. Let's now discuss the candidates. As mentioned earlier, the entire Mississippi slate needs to be replaced. Every one of them is corrupt. And once again, two members here over the age of 70. Benny Thompson, age 77, should just retire. But no, of course not. Still running for re-election. 3 members of Congress dropped dead last year. All Democrats, of course. That really helped the resistance. This year, there has already been 1 to drop dead. At least it was a Republican this time. Doug LaMalfa of California's 1st District, back on January 6th. To be clear, this is not about being ageist or hating old people. Any one of us could die tomorrow for any number of reasons. Death by ice appears to be a rising cause of death in this country. In the process of recording this video, they literally executed another person. But a pin in that for now. The point here about age is the older you get, the probability of dying goes up, and for many, their mental abilities go down. I am not against term limits, but I believe age limits would be a better policy. When you hit 70, you can finish out that term. But after, retire. And spend your remaining years with your family. Or don't. I don't care what you do after. But it's time for you crypt keepers to get the fuck out of Congress. Putting my age rant aside, let's look at the primary candidates. Unfortunately, unlike the first 3 states already reviewed, there aren't any primary candidates who I can say meet the requirements to be approved. While I am reviewing campaign web pages, I want to see strong language in support of impeaching Trump, abolishing ICE, Medicare for all, raising the minimum wage, and ending support to the nations committing genocide. Real radical stuff, I know. If the candidate doesn't have at least 1 or preferably 2 of these policies listed on their campaign page, then in my honest opinion, they are not a serious candidate. Either they are completely ill-prepared for this moment, or they are paid to run for that seat by their donors in the oligarchy. If you run for office, but are not willing to clearly state why you're running for that office, what you're fighting for, then I'm not going to waste my time, or others, talking about you. If you are a voter in one of these districts, I would still encourage you to research on your own, if any of these candidates are still worth supporting. I mean, here are the options as I see them. Yeah, all these Democratic candidates may not support the policies we need right now. But they're certainly better than the Republicans, huh? Yeah? No? Right. Of course, because that is a weak fucking argument, and the same lesser of two evil bullshit that has led us to fascism. So for those that have been arguing to not support the Democrats and support third party, well, here's the sad truth with that. Not every seat has an independent or third party choice. And when there is one, doesn't mean that they're the better by default. Don't forget, there's many libertarians out there. To be perfectly clear, these videos are not about supporting the Democratic Party, but rather reforming it, with better candidates where available. Once the primaries are over, if there is a better independent or third-party candidate that has a better policy platform than a centrist, liberal, or corporate Democrat, then vote for that better candidate. At this moment, a few of the seats do have an independent option. Since this series is mainly focused on the Democratic primaries, I haven't reviewed those independent options yet. Once the primaries are over and I do follow-up videos, it's possible one of them meets the requirements. Not all secular lefty-approved candidates will necessarily be Democrats. My support is based on policies to improve lives, not blind loyalty. Since there aren't any approved candidates to discuss, instead, I want to reinforce a point on voter participation. Going into the primary elections, Trump has made Republicans extremely unpopular, while energizing many Democratic voters to vote against Trump and his MAGA fascists. Here are the results for Tennessee's 7th District special election. The voting for this was held on December 2nd, 2025, and Republican Matt Epps won the seat against Democrat Afton Bain by about 16,000 votes, or about 9 percentage points. Now, previously in 2024, the Republican won by a far wider margin of about 70,000 votes. When looking between the vote totals of 24 and the special election of 25, this one district visualizes a major problem with the U.S. voting populace. Many of our fellow Americans only view their civic duty as voting in the presidential general election every 4 years. Midterm elections see less participation, special elections see even less, and the primary elections equal to or even less. Had every Democrat who voted in 2024 voted for Afton in 2025, she would be a member of Congress right now. She is running again in the 2026 midterms, and so maybe with the right message, she can inspire more people to support her campaign and could win in November this year. But it takes every voter showing up, and it takes a candidate worth voting for. It is the second part of that equation that worries me when discussing Mississippi. A state of nearly 3 million people, but not one decent candidate ready to meet this moment and the secular lefty requirements. Now, it doesn't have to stay that way. Again, any one of these candidates who learns how to read a room and starts speaking about and fighting for the policies we discussed earlier, then I can do an updated video with the good news. Hopefully that will happen. But that is the only chance any of these candidates will have of winning one of these districts and the Senate seat. Here are the numbers from 2024. Every seat was won by a difference of 80,000 or more votes. Now, over these past 2 years, the feelings of voters may have changed dramatically, along with the changes of who lives there and who's now of voting age. While these margins may seem unlikely to defeat a Republican candidate, it's not impossible. Difficult? Sure. But by no means am I arguing against that. I'm just pointing out it is the candidate's job to earn the votes of the people in that district. Past Democrats have failed. New Deal Democrats, Social Democrats, Democratic Socialists, those are the candidates with the best chance of making this happen. But at the moment, none are running in Mississippi. In the 2nd District, right, technically a Democrat is most likely to win that seat. But the options are a 77-year-old APAC corrupt incumbent, or 2 other candidates that can't be bothered to show support for abolishing ICE or Medicare for all. Now, if I'm wrong and miss their support for those policies, let me know. I'll correct that. But these policies are among the minimum. Without showing real support for all American people, not only our citizens, but our immigrant communities, our trans communities, support every community equally, or you will not receive support from the Democratic base, no matter how terrible and fascist the Republican candidate probably is. A majority of Americans want the DNC and Democratic establishment to learn from their electoral mistakes in the past. We want this to be a better party to improve people's lives, but they can't. To learn from those mistakes puts them in direct conflict with their donors, the rich money oligarchs who write their speeches and policy proposals. From healthcare to genocide, it is all controlled by the corporations and their lobbyists. But we can organize to take power back. If you are someone that complains about lack of good candidates but doesn't vote in the primary elections, the failure to participate in the process is part of the problem. Yes, not being active in politics is a choice, but it's also a choice with consequences for the rest of us. I understand the Democratic Party has abandoned us for wealthy donors, resulting in a lower favorability rating than the party led by a child-raping fascist. I'm not asking you to support the party. Don't donate to the DNC. The DNC can respectably fuck off. While our elections are run at the state level, both political parties have made it difficult and expensive to run outside that system. Think of the party as a vehicle to get the candidates elected. Currently, the Democratic Party has stood for nothing. It is up to us to nominate better candidates who will redefine the Democratic Party by what they fight for. If only there were candidates like that running in Mississippi. I think they're out there. But just existing and having the courage and resources to run for office are two very separate things. Maybe in 2028. But for now, there are plenty of other congressional races with candidates that need assistance. With time being a limited factor, not many Americans do the research. If watching this video or any other videos in this series is the most political research you do in your primary election decision making, then that alone is still more work than most other voters put into the process. Many liberals, centrists, they traditionally just wait until the general election and get told by the Democratic Party who to vote for. As a reminder, look around. Did that strategy lead us to success? Is our nation, our neighbors better off because of it? Or are you also capable of reading the damn room and acknowledging the corruption of the Democratic Party and its capture by capitalists have led us to the rise of fascism in America? I am choosing to be optimistic that maybe we can vote our way out of this. But if not, just be prepared for the worst. When doing your own research on congressional candidates, there are some other political groups I hope you will consider. You may have noticed the 6 groups on screen with the Slate information. While not every secular lefty approved candidate is supported by all the groups listed, I have them there to inform you as potential voters. When researching candidates, see if any of them have been endorsed by these groups. Track AIPAC supports candidates who don't take AIPAC money. Similarly, Our Revolution, a group founded after Bernie Sanders' 2016 presidential campaign, is a group supporting candidates that refuse all super PAC money and agree to get money out of politics. Justice Democrats is another group that supports candidates who sign on to their progressive policies, which they list on their webpage. Citizens Impeachment is a group, as the name would suggest, support candidates who are fighting for impeachment of Trump and every criminal in his cabinet. No Dem Left Behind and Leaders We Deserve, 2 more groups that have helped me find secular lefty-approved candidates. Links for all these progressive organizations will be included below. Times are difficult for many of us. Working longer hours for minimal wages, with dollars that purchase less each day. If we continue to do nothing, things won't improve. If you don't have money, the easiest thing to do to participate is to help candidates you support by spreading their message. Find them on social media and repost their statements, or write your own. Just giving these candidates some visibility will help them far more than you know. And we can't rely on the corporate media to inform us of which candidates are going to raise their taxes. I will state once again to be clear. I will never ask you to give money to the Democratic Party or DNC. Shithole organizations that wasted $20 million to learn how to talk to men, when all they had to do was raise the minimum wage, support Medicare for all, end support for genocide. Should have been simple, but no. Corruption has destroyed the morality and mental clarity of the same people who then have the audacity to berate you for not voting for them. So instead, if you're in a place to donate and want to help make a better future happen, either find candidates to donate to directly, preferably a secular lefty-approved candidate, or one of the 6 groups we discussed earlier. Or, if you like the educational work I'm providing on this channel, please consider joining one of my Patreon tiers. I would like to make these projects to become my full-time job and provide my income, but that can only happen with your support. Final thing before ending this video. Not every seat is guaranteed for a Democratic or progressive victory. Yes, there are plenty of other seats in states with more winnable candidates, but if no one tries, then the seats are an automatic loss. The Democratic Party may have abandoned a 50-state strategy, but that is the type of organizing needed for us to defeat the fascism in our country. It will be difficult. I by no means want to give the impression that this will be easy, but it's not impossible. We discussed how voter participation is low. Trump continues to lose support from his disastrous actions throughout his second term. We could have the combination for victory here. Enough Republicans discouraged from voting because of Trump's fascism and child-raping actions. and better Democrats who give voters something to vote for. Mississippi doesn't have any inspiring candidates at the moment. Maybe one of them will prove me wrong, or somebody can change that in 2028. For now, there are plenty of other states with secular lefty approved candidates who need our support. As stated, Mississippi will vote on March 10th. The first 3 states voting are on March 3rd. This includes Arkansas, North Carolina, and Texas, which all have videos reviewing their slates. Go check them out. While your state might not have been discussed yet, more videos will be released throughout this year for every state's primary election. So be sure to ring that bell to be notified of my newest videos to stay informed. If you found anything I said in today's video useful, please share it. Give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Please help make America educated again. Until the next video, consider checking out my other work on this channel. Thank you again for listening, and take care.